kind of chatty, interactive session, rather than just you listening to us talk for 30 minutes and probably starting to nod off at 4 o'clock on an afternoon of an intense conferencing. But just to introduce, I guess, the title of this session, we wanted to focus on how schools and colleges can maximise their relationships with universities and set the scene of who we are. As you can see on the screen, I'm Elliot. I am the head of UK recruitment and outreach at the University of Leicester for the next 32 minutes. This is my last day at the University of Leicester. This is the last session. So you feel very privileged. I've been here 10 years, 11 years this week. This is my last session before I move to a different role at De University, just down the road, starting after Easter. But I've been here 10 years in student recruitment roles and outreach roles, and now head up the team at the university. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that team does and how it works with schools and colleges as part of our intro. Andy, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. And I have the honour of sharing Elliot's last session. I mean, it would be great if I was almost stepping into your job. I'm very much still at Keele. So yeah, nice to see you all again. So yeah, my job at Keele, I'm head of global undergraduate student recruitment access at Keele. I've been at Keele about 2.5 years now. My background is in student recruitment, outreach. I've worked in London, I've worked at Nottingham and Birmingham as well. So kind of coming at this from a few different universities that I've worked in as well, and how we work with schools and colleges. So what we're going to try and do today is give you the context of how we both work with schools and colleges, but also add a context where we've worked in different places, how we've seen other universities work with schools and colleges as well. But also we're quite keen to hear what you want from university partnerships, what you value, what you think's worked well, what you think's worked badly. And we said we try and be as honest as we possibly can be. So if you've got any frustrations with a request you sent to university that you think, I just don't understand why that didn't work or why I got the answer no, do ask us and we'll try and be as honest as we can be this afternoon.
Great. So I've also, in terms of my previous experience before Leicester, had also worked at New College, Stamford. So I've got that kind of FE experience before working at the University of Northampton, where I graduated as well. So between us, we cover quite a wide range of universities, but also we do work with quite a wide range of colleagues at other universities in these similar types of roles. There's an organisation called HELOA, which we're part of, the Higher Education Liaison Officers Association, which essentially brings together, it's quite niche, it brings together people in the kind of schools liaison, outreach, widening participation space across the country, but also across the region for kind of training events, development events, sharing best practice. Hence why we think we've got quite a good understanding of kind of what's going on in the sector and how those challenges that we're all facing are being worked on, hopefully collaboratively. We wanted to slightly also set the scene with a couple of other points that haven't really been covered as part of other scene setting pieces at the moment. Just a couple of points that do really kind of impact this discussion. So the first one really is around access and participation. You may or may not know that universities are required by the Office for Students, or the OFS, to have what's called an access and participation plan. And that is a process that's being renewed at the moment. There are about 40 universities that did the process last year, so have a new access and participation plan, often called Wave 1 providers. That includes places like Bath, Southampton, University of Law, and about 38 others, which is really hard to recollect on a Friday afternoon. That leaves pretty much every other higher education institution that has awarding power to degrees, which is quite a lot, to be in Wave 2, which is at the moment. So universities, including ourselves, I think yourselves at Keele, my future employers as well down the road as well, and about 140 odd other universities, as well as broader colleges as well, are having to also go through that process. And what that looks to do is identify gaps in various stages of the higher education journey, I suppose, whether it's at access for our conversation today, whether it's at kind of current students, or whether it's on graduation and employment rates as well, and almost challenge the universities to address those. Be honest with your data, be honest with what you're then trying to do, put into place some kind of pretty rigorous intervention strategies, and try and measure your impact of stuff. So that as a kind of other scene setting piece, alongside some of the other what we've heard today around there just being more students, which you probably see there's a bigger population of people from year 7 through to kind of year 12, particularly at the moment. So there's more demand on universities we are seeing for stuff, whether that's visits to campus, because we know obviously you have some pretty rigorous benchmarks to hit in terms of particular careers guidance and through Gatsby and a whole maybe school improvement plans, Ofsteds, etc., etc. So you mesh all that together, having an increased demand for things, whether that's visiting, whether that's for staff time, whether that's visits to your school, your college, academic stuff as well around the edges. What we thought we'd run this session to kind of focus on is actually, let's understand that, let's unpick that a little bit more, and how can we work kind of more in I guess in partnership and collaboration with schools and colleges here, but also hearing your challenges, your needs, requirements, and kind of understanding that a little bit more. Andy, do you want to kind of go into a bit more detail on that?
Yeah, I was just going to try and give you some of the example of what, when we say more, I thought I literally had sat out there and had a look at what we've done over the last 3 years at Kiel to give you a sense of what more looks like. When I started September 2021, remember those dark days where before that there was no outreach for 12 months because no one was anywhere. But we did 208 school and college interactions with 144 different schools. That was year one, 208. We consider that a quiet year. Next year, we did 516 interactions with 261 schools and colleges. This year, so far, we've got 628 in the diary for this academic year. So you can see kind of the explosion in interest. Now, that's great because we love coming out and talking to your students. We love working with them. We need to sleep sometimes, though, and our teams have got ever increasing questions and demand and asks from yourselves. So that's just, you know, in a Kiel context. For us, we try to work in a very targeted way, and again, we're quite happy to talk quite openly about how we do that, why we do that. Obviously, we've got different objectives that we have at universities. We want to tell people that Kiel exists, and that it might be a nice place for them to go and study. If they then find that that's not true and they don't want to come, that's fine. We would hope that that targeting exercise cuts out that risk for us. Yeah, we don't necessarily want to come and talk to students who we don't think we'd be a good fit for. So we're always trying to find that balance. Who's actually going to be a good fit for the university and who's not? And we're happy to sort of direct where perhaps we think we may not be the most right fit for some of the interventions that we're thinking of planning and delivering, of trying to find alternative providers who might be well placed to do that for your school or college. We also then have the wide participation and access piece of our work as well. So working with schools and colleges where there is a high density of students underrepresented in HE, and trying to put different interventions in place to help support those as well. So we're balancing those two things as well, plus all the email coming in. And all the other activity we do. So the same people who come to your school, colleges, then go and sit on the UCAS exhibition stands the next day, or in the case of someone on the Leicester team last night, saying they were woke up at 4:30 in the morning to get a train to Leeds, then was sat in having dinner last night and we delivered sessions today. So yeah, that's kind of the context that we're working in terms of the size and demand that we're being asked to deliver. One of the things we were talking about was we want to make sure as well that the student experience we're talking about is reflective of what happens when they come to university. So things like campus visits, we were saying, if we had all of our academic staff available all the time to you and all the rooms on campus, what a horrific student experience that was going to be for all the students then at the university, who we also want to have a really, really good time, that we're then telling prospective students is the case. So those are some of the balances that we're trying to trade off as we go through.
I guess to kind of set the scene a little bit from the Leicester side, we have a team that does it kind of gets bigger as students get older. So we have some a member of staff just over there that focuses on our primary school outreach, that is focused pretty much within Leicester City, because there are still lots of primary schools in Leicester City. And then it gets gradually slightly bit broader, but kind of 3 or 4 members of staff that look at 11 to 16 students. And then a broader team of about, again, 6 or 7 more that look at kind of post-16 students across the country, to reflect where we see students coming from that are interested in the university, but also where we know our data shows that we definitely need to be working to address some of those access gaps or even success gaps that we are seeing, and was working backwards from that. So hopefully that's kind of set the scene a little bit as some of the kind of questions and thoughts that we have to put in place when it comes to proactively trying to work with schools and colleges, but also reactively, because as we just said, we fully understand the kind of demands that are being put on you guys in terms of encounters with employers, encounters with HE, encounters with FE, encounters with everyone else. Get your students to an exhibition, travel support that we know, and traveling, which we know obviously has gone up about 100% over the last 18 months or so. Quite tough. Hence what you said, we thought we'd run something like this session today. But what we thought, because as I said, I mentioned interactivity, and there's been none of that so far, but we're going to kind of get into that. We're going to dive into that. And what we thought we'd do is, again, because you've got a range of practitioners in the room that are from across the region, from across the country. What we wanted to really understand is what's working for you, what isn't working for you, or what have you found challenging. But doing that as a bit of a kind of group exercise first. So we might do a bit of shifting in terms of just making sure there are kind of genuine groups in the room. So kind of what's working for you, what have you found actually in terms of either a particular university or particular approach with or a relationship that you've got, what are the main challenges you're facing, and what actually maybe do you foresee as some of the demands that are coming up over the next year, 18 months, that actually universities like ourselves and other ones should actually be thinking about to kind of get ahead of that, rather than having to kind of get to the end and go, actually, we can't do what you're looking to do. So what we'll probably do is if we shift, if you want to shift on to maybe tables that are kind of here, maybe I've kind of groups of minimum of 4, I think. So kind of 3 main questions really. What's working well at the moment? Also, if you are very new, you can just listen, that is fine. What's working well? What isn't working that well? What are you finding challenging? And also what we need to prepare for in your centres. We'll give that kind of 10 minutes and then we'll kind of feedback. Yeah, 10 minutes. Yeah. Why don't you get that? Yes, yeah. We're having group discussions around what's working well in your engaging with universities, what's also not working well, what are you finding challenging, and then what do you foresee as potential challenges.
Yesterday, you're really cringy. Concept.
Yeah,
everyone had a card.
Yeah,
and there was a tree. Basically, someone was there and to try and be some of my team have to write quite anyway.
Trade through behaviour.
Couldn't find anyone. But then automatically assign the person who's in feedback.
Right.
And that was the best bit. It was just like, well, that's done. But it also completely fell apart.
Yeah. Someone tries to have a 10.
They were like, and you have 5 minutes. Is it really good? It's a good concept. I could see it if you have half an hour.
Yes,
it could work quite well. They sort of backed it in and they played the theme tune way too loud. It made no sense of the context.
Good.
And also you've got something should be going on. That's what you don't want to like. You're signing. If you go into organising. It's really long-winded. I know where they're going. I think that if you look at like you spend you come back to that. I think so. All the money you do, expend the action to be, spend time with the university. And also give it one to the training on lecture content.
We advise you the personal statement you are going to contribute anyway, so we bring it in. And again, for you about because we're in Milton Keynes and it's a growing city and there's a lot of companies, they're really good at coming in for career and you can combine with year 11 when you need year 13 to do post 16 and post 16 apprenticeship. But the day, having one timetable for a day, start your application, these are the questions you've got to go and get from your parents, start your personal statement, what we're going to put in it. And this year, the first time we want to get a day and actually it's meant that applications are far higher than where they were. In 27 and it just experience practicing. Actually, checking goes. This is going to be important. That's what we're going to get them on some of this. That was very good. When I started I think it still worries me as you remember actually set and that really worries me because however the student that he had to go it is an emotional
I think students not what they want.
taking a day off work, I think but you just go, they're so used to online, and universities are very good at doing like video of the experience. This is what we like. The kids with their things on TikTok. Whatever you do, is the best.
That's probably what they'll do. As a worst case scenario. Things like that.
With the offer on that,
So they
And I mean, we're like to
It's okay. But I don't think it's absolutely. All the time.
and then it's like trying to find it. It's fine if you don't get your friends.
Yeah.
It's
It's between.
it's like that. Yes, but we'll do it. It's like 13 Hannah's minutes, just 5 minutes of the balance. Here's what's going on next.
Okay, some good conversation, and we get sorry to interrupt it, but you all have trains to catch. We could talk about this for hours. Do you want to start with, by a show of hands, you've got two options: the good things or the bad things. Who wants to talk about good things? Who wants to talk about bad things? Who wants to go home? Well, we'll start with this table down here. Do you want to give us one thing that's working really, really well with the university to work with, one thing that's working really badly? And then we'll go around all the tables, bring them all together, and then we might be able to provide some reflections on those.
I think what's working well, we said, was like campus tours and universities respond really quickly to schools in terms of what they need from that university. What isn't is budgets, our budgets, the lack of telephone helplines, so like immediate support when we need it. So I think so respond quickly via email, but when we need it later on, I think there's sometimes a lack of telephone helplines.
Is that as in a telephone helpline for like the teams like ours, or is that more of a kind of admission hotline? Or
it's an admissions hotline. It's when a student comes in to the office. Says,
oh,
exactly.
Yeah.
And we phone through. This phone is not manned.
right.
Apart from between 10 and 12.
10 and 10 past 5.
Press 1. Go ahead. Press 2.
Yeah, we've had all of those.
Have you seen that? Is that a shift that you've seen
Since COVID.
since COVID? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I mean we have kind of teams telephony, but I'm not sure we've hugely publicised that. But that sounds like a really glaringly obvious one.
Mock interviews, so support the students with mock interviews, and I think discussing more alternative routes to
Mm-hmm.
the same job.
In terms of mock interviews, are they delivered in your centre?
We
Just
deliver
to
mock
practice,
interviews,
like,
yeah.
you know, how they can like, kind of like, we can prepare them together.
Yeah. Oh, no. Okay, great.
Thanks, guys. That back table, same question.
Well, we said things that worked well were generally the interactions where, you know, schools come in and do sessions. We were particularly talking about how much the students benefit from that face-to-face rather than a virtual session. They really seem to get so much more out of it. And we were saying in an ideal world, what we'd like to see more of would be subject-specific things, so taster sessions.
At the school.
Ideally at the school, it just be purely because of the challenges we have getting them out. Like I get for taking students out of school for a whole day when they're actually only doing a 2-hour session at university or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, how much work they're missing. Whereas if I do it in school, they're only missing 2 periods of classes, and that's all right. And just all the red tape around doing trips and the expense of taking coach tours, etc.
Yeah.
But lots of students are after that. And whilst there are certain subject points where I think the students are very proactively going to seek that out, so those who apply for medicine will go to extraordinary lengths to get all the experience they can because they know how competitive it is.
Yeah.
Other subjects, they're a lot less likely to do that.
Can I ask a question as well on that academic? We get lots of requests sometimes going, I'd like to bring all of year 12 and we'd like an academic session. We go, that's, we can, but what would you like? And where we find that really hard, and then probably maybe it's a poor experience for you, is we'll go, can anyone do a session that will be maybe hit 120 students? And they go, well, I know lots about microbiology, but I can't really go any beyond that. It's only going to speak to nursing, and it's a bit of honesty. But you go, could you do this session all around nursing? Well, I teach adult nursing. You could mention child, it's a completely different specialty. Then we're in an argument about, which is fine.
Isn't the NHS wonderful?
Yeah, and they're very valid points. They are different careers, different jobs. We're like, come on, people. So sometimes we find academic staff can be really hard for that kind of mass audience bit. Like, does anyone have experience of that where you've got someone stood up going, hey, this is my psychology lecture, and you've got 10 students going, oh, brilliant, and 90 going, oh, I don't want that.
We used to have a great example of that where we used to roll out a lecturer from our politics department to talk about Nelson Mandela. Everyone loves Nelson Mandela. And that was usually the go-to leader.
Yeah. So doing them in groups in your school, that's probably a better fit, and you can select students might be a better fit.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have had a few, I was saying, for example, we had someone come from Leicester 3 years ago to do a politics taster session, and we just combined our 2 A-level politics classes together, and they all sat and thoroughly enjoyed it and got a bit of an insight into what it might be like.
I guess just to follow up on that, I don't know if everyone saw, but so UCAS recently announced a partnership with a company called SpringPod that do they're called subject spotlights, which are essentially kind of mini video taster courses. They're really high quality produced academic content. They kind of talk you through a subject, obviously a subject spotlight, and it's usually that kind of interactive taster session. It's almost like a little course. I think they're due to go live on UCAS across all the universities that use SpringPod, and Leicester are one of those, within the UCAS hub. I think it's quite soon. So actually, there might be some more ability if you're finding kind of getting academics physically in, which is still, I guess, the dream, but a challenge for a whole variety of reasons. I think that's one of the reasons they have done that partnership, which so we've got about 6 or 7 of them. They are really, really good at kind of addressing. I think there's one of ours around some biology of computers and stuff like that. So it's taster sessions over a period of sessions that are short, sharp stuff. Not one to look at. Moving over to, I guess, maybe to this table before we kind of wrap up. I think we're going to get nods from Hannah and our team to kind of keep going. What were your guys? There was some really interesting discussions. I was nosy on this table. What are you finding that's working? Let's go with challenges and then we'll end on a high. What's working?
Yeah. Challenges are definitely transport costs.
Transport costs.
Yeah.
Have you seen any universities trying to address that with you, or is it kind of a bit of a,
we've had a lot
some of the admin around that?
Yeah, £100. Yes, and like we've also gone out to ask other agencies, and so we have got an offer through DANCOM. So they come in and they deliver some pre and post sessions linked into the HE fairs, and obviously we get subsidised funding, which is a win-win situation for us.
Did you go looking for that, or was that something that kind of came to you asked?
Nicely.
I guess tip there.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to ask.
Don't be afraid to ask. No, never.
Right. And in terms of I guess there's a funding and challenge in terms of what's positive. I think there's some nice stuff around Newcastle Discovery and some of the resources that was mentioned. That was one. Anything else?
Yeah, I think kind of, yeah, people sound about taking students to a university campus, experience. Talk to different subject areas.
You said you had to Birmingham, right? Birmingham.
Yeah, we had a whole year 12 to UOB open day, which is really convenient for us because it's local, so we meet students there, so that and then we register them there. And it's a lovely campus, and it's usually in the summer, so it's usually a sort of nice day, and they get a bit of that student experience of going and getting their Starbucks and and stuff like that. So it works well for us.
That's interesting on the open days as well, because we were talking a bit about this last night. We had a big local citizen college to us, who will remain nameless, you can probably guess. Keele used to run a bespoke day for them every year, and it felt lovely to feel like, oh yeah, we're really at the prime part here. But what it meant was we couldn't open any of the student rooms because we had students in them. We couldn't get all the academics off times over they were teaching. We couldn't get them in the gym because people were using it. And the university wasn't set up for like 800 students all of them at once. But open days, we absolutely are. So we told that college, we want you to come, but we want you to have the best version of what we can offer. And that is when we can off-timetable everyone. And then, like you say, then Starbucks is open, but psychology have got a session, then geology have got a session. You can do all of that if you want. But yeah, when we tried to do it bespoke, kind of all the people we had to pull together who were all, again, looping back to that student experience that they were trying to give, then couldn't get out to do it. So I think there's lots of universities who've got these weekday open days, and that's a really good opportunity. I think we do honestly care when it's not a fob off to say, oh, would you like to come to our open day? We can say, oh, but I really want to bring just my group. But sometimes that I think weighing up what the interaction looks like and the value of it to your students is something that we try and discuss with schools quite a lot. So we could do this, but we would, being honest, we'd do it badly. Yeah, you wouldn't have the access to the type of facilities that we have. I guess the downside is it's dates, right, with your diaries and trying to get out and then trying to make them all match as well.
But just as I think some of the difficulties, like we were really fortunate we set up with like UOB works really well for us.
Yeah.
Because we've just about got a small enough number that we can meet them there and register them all there and things like that. But
yeah,
I can imagine that younger year groups, it would be feasible to take them to an open day. So like if it was if you had a FE college, you can take a whole cohort and do all your safeguarding stuff and all of that sort of thing would be really hard as well.
I think just to kind of summarise, obviously we're kind of drawing to a close, but there's definitely an ongoing conversation, particularly as we've seen from the start of the day with the numbers of students just coming through this kind of system, particularly at the moment, and the number of options available to them. It's something that I guess I'd encourage you to kind of reach out to. It doesn't have to be local universities, it can be kind of universities that you're seeing kind of a number of students progressing on as destinations, to really try and explore what future conversations can look like in that space, and also to reach out to other people like yourselves, whether it has to be conferences. There are useful kind of online Facebook groups for teachers. It might be worth kind of searching out. I think Unifrog have one if you're on Unifrog, etc. So I think it's not going to go away. Arguably might get even harder, but I think the sector is trying to address that with some of the move forward, with either on-demand content or trying to make more space for schools at open days, etc. But yeah, hopefully that was a really kind of group chatted conversation towards the end. Might have made some new friends that you didn't know at the start of the day, which is good. So thank you very much from both ourselves and Andy for sticking with us throughout the session. Coming to the conference itself, I've got just one final handover to Hannah, who's just going to kind of talk through final steps.
Yeah, I promise I'm not going to take loads of time, because I know that everyone's actually desperate to leave, and yeah, I think the journey to make the most of the rest of the weekend. So I just wanted to say a huge thank you for coming. These events really don't work if we don't have your participation and your support. I've loved that we've put this programme together, and I was so excited about so many of the sessions. So I hope you just take a snippet away of that when you leave today. I am the person still continuously banging on about evaluation. You should, by the time you make your way back later, get an email that will have the post-evaluation. If you've got anything in addition to those questions that you want to share with us, or you want to follow up, whether it's from a particular session, we're going to be in touch with all of the people who've spoken today to try and get as much of that content shared as possible. But obviously, we want to double check that they're happy with that and to be able to share few little bits of housekeeping just to say is, if you did fill out the exhibition passport, if you wouldn't mind just leave that on the help desk when you go out with your name, we'll obviously put that into the drawer to see if you're going to win. If you had luggage, it should be outside with your luggage tags on, so please take obviously your bag, that'd be great. We will be hanging around for a little while if people obviously need to get a last refreshment or are heading off. If you've taken any photos today or you're sharing anything on social media, please don't hesitate to tag us in it. But I just wanted to say on behalf of the team here that I'm so thrilled that you're coming to invest, I guess, in your professional development and knowledge, but also in that of your young people. We want to continue to work with you, so please do follow up with us afterwards. And thank you so much. Please have a safe journey back. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.